Hi guys, Dave here and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about my top 10 Pokemon card investments so far. Let's go. At number 10, we are starting off with a Dark Dragonite and a Venusaur that I purchased from the Legendary Collection set. They were both graded cards. The Dark Dragonite was a PSA 8 and the Venusaur was a PSA 7, and the only reason I purchased them was because I didn't actually own a PSA 8 or a 7. Basically, I just wanted to see what that would get as a grade so I could see the differences between 8, 9 and 10 really. I ended up buying them both for £35 together. This was March 2020. I then ended up selling the cards for £135 roughly November last year. So in the same year I made about £100 profit on those two cards. Not bad. In at number 9 we have 24 Unseen Forces booster packs. I bought these when I was about 16 years old and they were roughly about £6 a pack. This was about 12 years ago and I think my pulls were a Tyranitar EX, Ho-Oh EX and the Raikou Gold Star. I think there were other pulls as well, but I don't actually remember them, so I'm not going to add them to the total. Those three cards that I do remember pulling I did end up selling in 2017 for £400. At number 8 we have the first booster box of the list, and that is Supreme Victors. I actually ended up buying 3 booster boxes at the time, but I opened up 2 and only kept 1 sealed. All 3 were purchased for £75 each back in 2009, and the one I did keep sealed I actually sold in 2017 for £450. Number 7 is the second booster box on the list, but I didn't actually purchase this. This was actually a present that my parents bought me for my 13th birthday. It was an EX Holland Phantoms booster box, and so while I didn't actually purchase the booster box myself, I am going to consider it on this list. The reason being is because I actually sold it in 2017 for £500, which was incredibly cheap, to be honest. Number 6 is actually quite a good story. It revolves around a car boot sale here in the UK. My girlfriend and I at the time were trying to make some money and basically go on holiday that year. I think I was around 17, and at one point during the day I decided to go around and look at the other stalls. I managed to find an old gentleman that was selling his son's cards. From memory, I think it was a complete base set and a near complete Team Rocket set that I purchased. I believe I paid about £90 at the time, but this was about 10-11 years ago. I ended up selling the cards back in 2017 2018, but it wasn't as a complete set. I ended up splitting the cards to try and make more money, and the sole reason was because I was trying to buy my first house. I kind of wish that I did keep the set rather than sell it. The reason I sold it, other than to try and move into my first house, was that base set was heavily printed, and so I figured I could basically do it again but cheaper. Boy was I wrong. Number 5 is the third booster box on the list, and it's kind of a weird one. I don't actually remember why I purchased it, only that I did purchase it and sell it recently. The box that I purchased was a Heart Gold Soul Silver Triumphant box. I've no idea why I actually picked that booster box to buy. I didn't buy the other 3. It must have been an impulse buy at the time, and the only reason I didn't open it was because Heart Gold Soul Silver wasn't really well received back then. It seemed to be that nobody cared for the primes or the current format of the game, and so I just decided to sit on it. Again, I sold this box, bit of a running theme, back in 2017 when I went to buy my first house. The box sold for around £650 after fees, so it was actually not too bad. Number 4 is probably the most recent purchase and sale on the list, and I really do regret it because it's technically flipping, which is not something I'm trying to do. My main goal is to get cards graded, keep them for a while, and then sell them at market value to try and fund my collective purposes. I actually bought a case of the Lost Thunder booster boxes. This is a spare that I did keep after I sold the original 6, and each box was purchased for £120 each. A friend of mine actually sent a link to a website which was of a local game store near him. Had a look online, and he basically had a lot of the old X, Y and Sun and Moon booster boxes in stock, and they were incredibly undervalued at the time. So I actually bought the case and the 7th booster box for £120 each back in September 2020. In the same month, I ended up selling the whole case of booster boxes for £240 a box. Number 3 is actually the first graded card that I ever got, or at least from my own collection. It was a Mewtwo EX from Ruby and Sapphire. This was a card that I got graded back in 2019. It came back as a 10. I then kept it for a full year and then decided to sell it about June, July time in 2020. I ended up selling the card for around £1,800. This actually started my grading side hustle, and so while I was reluctant to give it away, it was such a good price that I just couldn't turn it down. Number 2 is actually of the same theme. So while I did have the Mewtwo EX in a PSA 10, I actually came across an eBay job lot back in March 2020. This consisted of all 8 EX cards that came within the Ruby and Sapphire set. I actually picked up all 8 for £75 total, and this was back in March 2020 last year, so right before the pandemic hit. All the cards got graded and I got them back about August time last year, and the majority of the cards came back a 9, and I think the Sneasel EX was a 6. All 8 cards after eBay and PayPal fees, I ended up selling for about £2,000. Which is really good. And finally, number 1. So this is the one that actually pains me the most. The reason being is that it was my entire childhood collection. Something that nobody should ever sell. Again, the running theme in this list was that most of these sales were because I was trying to buy my first house. The cause was really good. However, keeping those cards for sentimental value is basically priceless. The collection basically consisted of base set, jungle, fossil, Team Rocket, and a couple of the early EX set. Whilst they weren't all complete, the cards were in really good condition, and no doubt the buyer got everything graded and made a huge profit. Okay, well that completes my top 10 Pokemon investing list. Hopefully you found this quite entertaining. If you did enjoy this video, please drop a like. It really does help me out, and it'd be great to get some more support on my main series, which is the 12-month Pokemon investing project. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya.